Welcome to the Physicians Committee's Mission Critical Update. And thank you for joining us today, July 8th, 2021. I'm Betsy Wasson, PCRM's Vice President of Development, and this is PCRM's weekly briefing to keep you informed of the important work on behalf of animals and people that your support is making possible. So Dr. Barnard is coming up in just a moment, and he'll be sharing the latest PCRM news with us. He may mention the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, which begins next week and is keeping our staff very busy with preparations to make sure that this is the best conference ever. And joining Dr. Barnard is Elizabeth Baker, PCRM's Regulatory Policy Director. Elizabeth will be updating us on PCRM's work to advocate for removing the animal cruelty from vaccine production. You've heard on earlier Mission Criticals how horseshoe crabs are abused for vaccine approval, and today Elizabeth will give us an update on some exciting progress to modernize research and testing. I have a couple things to mention before I hand the event over to Dr. Barnard. So this is the very last day to contribute to our Saving Animals, Healing the Planet campaign and to have your donation doubled. So thank you to all of you who have already donated. Contributions to this campaign will fuel our nutrition research, our outreach, education, work that is improving our health, getting animals off of our plates, and helping the planet, helping heal the planet in so many ways. So if you would like to get in on this opportunity to have your donation matched, please go to our campaign website. That is pcrm.org/match, M-A-T-C-H, match. So it's been heartwarming to see the outpouring of support because, as you know, PCRM work runs on donations. So thank you again for making all this progress possible. We have a wonderful way to communicate with each other. It is the chat box, and please go ahead and chat with us today. Let us know where you're joining from, and if you have any questions for our presenters, for Dr. Barnard or Elizabeth, you can type them into the chat. You can also use the Q&A box for those questions, and we'll try to get to all of them in the next 30 minutes. But when you type them into the chat, we often have PCRM staff also chatting away, and a lot of times they're able to send you a link or answer your question, and that's why you want to choose all attendees and panelists from the drop-down menu so that everyone can see your question and what you're messaging about. So now, I am pleased to turn the event over to the President and Founder of the Physicians Committee. Here's Dr. Neil Barnard with a Mission Critical update.
Well, thank you, Betsy. Thanks to all of you for joining, and thank you especially for letting us know where you're joining us from, saying hello. And as I'm seeing the names go by, I see some new names, but I also see some old friends. Hello, Dr. White in Rochester, Minnesota. It's great to have you with us. Hello to so many others who are joining us. Hello, Allison. Thank you. Anyway, if you haven't yet jumped into the chat box, please do let us know where you're watching us from, and let your friends know that they can get an update here. I want to be just really brief because Elizabeth Baker has a really important update that's coming up. But before we go to that, she's going to talk about animals in vaccine testing and some new initiatives that we're bringing forward. But I want to talk about animals on the plate. And let me share my screen. I hope I did that right. There we are. Got that? All too often, we see this scene where the doctor is explaining why he has no clue about nutrition. And it would be bad enough if doctors would just say, I don't know. But unfortunately, the patient comes in with a high cholesterol level. And the doctor's not too sure how nutrition got the person there, but the answer is take Lipitor. And the doctor sort of neglects all the things that have led to the high cholesterol level, which are also leading to high blood pressure and weight gain and diabetes and many other problems that the doctor could have helped with. And it's not just cholesterol problems, it's all kinds of things. Patient goes to the doctor and says, I hope I don't get Alzheimer's disease like my parents had. The doctor says, gee, I'm not too sure what you can do. It's all genes and old age. Well, we're going to fix that. That's the good news. The International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, as Betsy mentioned, kicks off on Thursday of this week. We've been having it every single year. It's virtual this year, just like last year, but we've got about 1,000 people signed up to be part of it, mostly doctors, some medical students, some dietitians, some researchers, some physician assistants, and a number of others, and it's going to be a great thing. And what we cover is a huge range of conditions where diet plays an important role, all of which are pretty neglected when it comes to standard medical education. We're out to change that too, but in the meanwhile, we'll make sure that you have it here. How do we manage to do this, you might ask? Well, we have a partnership with the George Washington University, and we together provide continuing medical education approved by the American Medical Association. So the doctors come, they're required to have CME credits, we provide them. And in the process, they learn the latest about nutrition to prevent Alzheimer's, to prevent cancer or change its course, to deal with heart disease, to deal with diabetes, to deal with all of the things that you're seeing here, and a great many more. This year, we have a special set of cultural competence lectures where we look at diets from all around the world and how in some cases they have been eroded a bit, sometimes westernized in not such a great way, and how doctors can help patients who are dealing with diets like that and get back on track. Among them, Dr. Alan Desmond. Some of you know Dr. Desmond has been on our exam room live and spoken at ICNM in the past. He'll be coming to us from England, talking about Crohn's disease and gut health. Dr. Thomas Platts-Mills is the doctor who discovered that when people have a tick bite, they can become allergic to meat. How does that work? Well, he's going to explain it. He's the man who discovered it. Tim Key, also out of England, will be talking about the health benefits of different dietary patterns. He'll contrast a vegetarian diet to a vegan diet to a not quite vegetarian diet and let you know how the health patterns shape up. Ebony Price Haywood has a really incredible presentation on what I might call racial bias and how it has led to disparities, but particularly zeroing in on COVID and a new way of understanding that. Tove Fall has a fascinating presentation, which is if you've got diabetes, chances are your bad eating habits that led to it might be giving your dog diabetes. And so she's going to say how you can improve your dog's health, yours too. Anyway, there's lots more, and you'll hear more about it at ICNM. If you're interested in this kind of thing and you'd like to sign up, please go to our website. ICNM sign up is right there. One of the things that we often use our conference for is unveiling new research, getting together with other experts and planning where we can go. For example, some years ago, we realized that menopausal changes could be influenced by diet. And so we executed a study where postmenopausal women who were dealing with really pretty bad hot flashes either began a diet change or joined a control group with no diet change. The study has been finished and the findings are coming out next week. We'll let you know what we find. Diabetes is something that we've been dealing with for a long time. This is the pancreas. And when the pancreas goes bad, when the cells of the pancreas that make insulin aren't functioning anymore, you get type 1 diabetes. Now, people tend not to think that much about diet for type 1. They think type 2, that's the one where if I change your diet and you lose weight, everything's going to get better. But with type 1, you're stuck with that. Well, you may be stuck with it, but that doesn't mean you're stuck with the same medication doses. We are starting a study right now on type 1 diabetes, where people will follow either a low-fat vegan diet or a conventional diet, and we'll see if we can reduce medication use. Why do we think that's the case? Because we just published a set of case histories showing that when people follow this diet, their need for insulin drops dramatically. If we can do that for people with type 1 diabetes all over the world, people would save money. More importantly, their health would improve and the risk for complications would go way, way down. So all of these things are being explored as part of this, as part of our work at the Physicians Committee to change how medicine is practiced. In the process, doctors are smarter than they were before. They have more tools in their toolbox, so to speak. Their patients are helped. And because the solution is in almost every case to get the animals off the plate, among other diet changes, everybody benefits. So stay tuned, more to come. Back to you, Betsy.
Thank you, Dr. Barnard, and for all that education that you're putting out there into the medical community, into the world. And it really does sound like this is going to be the best ICNM conference we've ever hosted. We are seeing so many people saying hi and where you're from. It's great to see your names. And thank you for joining us today. So hello to Edie in South Carolina. Thank you for joining us. And Jan all the way from Wales, Brenda in Louisiana, Tamara in London, Neely in Dallas. We will see you at the conference. And please go ahead and feel free to type any questions that you have for Dr. Barnard or Elizabeth also into the chat. Let me introduce our next presenter. Elizabeth Baker is an attorney on our staff working to modernize drug development and to shift research from animals to human-based methods. So Elizabeth has been a regular guest on Mission Critical to talk about the work that she and her team are doing to end the use of animals in drug testing. And she's brought news about all kinds of fluff balls to us, but today she's back to talk about another fascinating animal, the horseshoe crab, and what we're doing to protect them and the marine environment that is impacted by relying on their blood for vaccine testing. So Elizabeth, let me go ahead and turn it over to you for some important news.
Okay, thank you so much, Betsy. And before I talk about the fascinating horseshoe crabs, I'll talk about the fascinating Royal, who is sitting in my lap as she does during my entire workday. Royal is my foster dog. Just with having, you know, the time at home, I thought, why not fill the house with some dogs? So we took Royal in along with her newborn puppies, and her puppies have all been adopted. She herself is really shy, so we're working on some confidence building before she's ready for her new home. But she's a wonderful little companion during the workday, especially as she's just sits on my lap as I get all my work done. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be back to talk about horseshoe crabs. There's so much to talk about. Our staff have been hard at work trying to save horseshoe crabs. And as you likely know, if you've been attending these mission critical calls, horseshoe crabs are frequently used in both vaccine testing and for all injectable therapies. Our communications department has put together a little video that I want to share because I think it does a really great job of giving the background, and I would like to ask that you all share it as well. I think it's great for public outreach and education because even though you know about this issue, a lot of people don't know what's happening to the horseshoe crab and just how bad it is. But I'm going to go ahead and share this video with you now.
With the urgent need to produce billions of doses of vaccine against COVID-19, the lives of hundreds of thousands of animals hang in the balance. These animals first appeared on the Earth 450 million years ago. The horseshoe crab. Conventional vaccine safety testing has become reliant on the blood of this animal. A material found in horseshoe crab blood cells can detect fever-causing contamination in vaccines. As part of this process, a large needle is inserted into their hearts, and the horseshoe crabs are drained of their blood. Up to 20% die as a result. The remaining crabs are returned to the sea, but many are too weak to survive or reproduce. These animals belong in the ocean, and life-saving vaccines don't require a blood sacrifice. A scalable synthetic alternative to the crab-sourced material is available. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has already approved several therapies that were tested for fever-inducing contaminants using the synthetic option. So why are horseshoe crabs still being used for testing? Regulatory policies make it more difficult to use the synthetic alternative, forcing companies to jump through hoops and clear several different hurdles if they seek to use the non-animal approach. Using the blood of horseshoe crabs puts us at risk of experiencing disruptions in supply, which could seriously stall vaccine safety testing, just when safety testing for vaccines is needed most. But in just 1 minute, you can help. Go to pcrm.org/horseshoe crab and take action. Vaccine safety testing can be done safely without harming wildlife.
Okay.
So please do go to our website and share that video to help us get the word out, just for some public education about what is going on. So there's a few things that I want to add. I think the video does a really great job of giving the background and why we're working on this, but we spend a lot of our time in the trenches trying to figure out exactly what's happening. When we first started, we wanted to know, where was the science? Well, we have been assured that the science is exactly where it needs to be. And in fact, this is more of an issue of policy, which we see a lot of the time. Through our interactions with stakeholders, we have learned, and it's just reinforced time and time again, that the synthetic option is not just an alternative to the animal test. It's actually superior to the animal test. And the reasons that stakeholders give are, well, there's many of them, but I'll list a few. The first is that the synthetic option is it's scalable and it has a stable supply. So companies are very concerned about reliance on the blood of a wild animal for an entire industry to do its testing. And so there is an ethical issue, but they really think that for these reasonably foreseeable supply chain vulnerabilities are a problem, and it's bad business, and they want to get beyond it for that purpose. We also hear from companies that they want to use it because it's a non-animal method. So a lot of companies do have some sort of ethical commitment to moving away from animals where they can. And this is one very clear example of something they can do now to save animals, and they want to do it. But not all companies are in a position to do it at this point because of policies that need to change. And the third thing I want to talk about is the fact that this synthetic option actually improves upon the science. So, sometimes I wonder, when we call something an alternative, if it has a connotation that it's maybe not as good as that initial method. And here, this is a very clear example of the synthetic model building upon the science. So there are some very clear scientific concerns associated with the horseshoe crab blood test that are not disputed. And when you use the synthetic, it eliminates those concerns completely. So, as I said, it's very clearly not an issue of the science. It's an issue of policy. And so our team is working to change the policy. And one way that we have found really beneficial and very helpful in achieving our goals is serving as a catalyst and bringing together stakeholders. And so we decided to do it for this issue. We did it back in March and had a really great meeting with some takeaways that we followed up on. And then we had another meeting that expanded the participants. So we convened 37 participants from different organizations. These are drug manufacturers, vaccine manufacturers, test method developers, the European and United States pharmacopoeia officials, as well as several staff from the United States Food and Drug Administration. It was a 2-hour meeting that we held virtually. And really what it mostly boiled down to is there's one remaining barrier that we have to work through. And that is, some of the decision makers want more data before they say, okay, you can use this method, we accept it. And It's pretty frustrating because European policymakers have already said there's enough data, we accept it. Industry has already done all of the internal testing that they do when wanting to switch methods, and they say the data is there, we want to use this, we think it is predictive and it will help us keep our patients safe while moving away from animals. And additionally, the Food and Drug Administration has already allowed some companies to use this method on a case-by-case basis when those companies went to the agency and did a ton of extra work in order to be able to use it. So, this issue that we're seeing now, this roadblock of needing more data, it's not unique to the horseshoe crab issue. It's something that we see in most replacement methods. And, I think it really comes from this resistance to change and fear of what might happen. But that's why it's so important to make sure that the science is there. And that is what we and a lot of other stakeholders have done. So at this point, our job, as I see it, is to continue to be the catalyst, to keep things moving, to keep pushing for change. And that's what we're going to continue to do. Our team is working on a workshop report that will result from the last 2 meetings that we had with all of these stakeholders. And I'll look forward to sharing a link to that on a Mission Critical in the future. Betsy, I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And, we have a question from Allison wanting to know if there are other organizations working alongside us on this horseshoe crab issue. Are there environmental organizations or not doing it alone, I'm sure.
That's right. We're not doing it alone. There are a lot of organizations that are pushing for this. So the pharmaceutical industry, a lot of different companies were pushing on their own, kind of individually. There is a trade group that represents companies that develop vaccines and injectable therapies. They have been doing some work to facilitate some change, but there are also conservation groups that are working on this. And we have been working quite closely with the conservation groups on this issue. Our concern, of course, is for the horseshoe crabs themselves, and then for good science and protecting patients. And the conservation groups bring in an additional concern, which is for the ecosystems that rely on healthy horseshoe crab populations. And so we've worked very closely with them through a coalition. And there's also different consultants. There are a lot of people that want to see this change because the science is there, the ethics are there, everything is aligning. And but we are a bit unique in that we are serving this role as kind of the convener of the stakeholders to have these discussions on identifying barriers and have everybody at the same table just to talk through the issues so we can do it face to face in real time and hopefully make progress a lot more quickly.
Thank you. A lot of concerned activity and PCRM doing the work to bring and lead all this into some real change. So thanks for that, and thanks for bringing us the update. There's many Mission Critical participants that are letting us know in the chat that they had no idea this was happening. Well, there's no question that getting animals out of science is better. It just, it seems like a big no-brainer. So if you didn't know it was happening, please share the video that we will send around in the follow-up email. Share it with people who also might not know this is happening and help us spread the word. A good way to reach a lot of people quickly is to post it on social media. Well, Dr. Barnard, let me go ahead and invite you to make closing comments for us.
Sure. Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Elizabeth, for a terrific presentation. You may not have known this. Elizabeth said she's a lawyer, but she's really a diplomat and a negotiator and found ways to bring in all kinds of people from various branches of government from all the major industries, all the stakeholders take her call and they get together and they're working out solutions. It's taking a little time, but we're going to get there. I have absolutely no doubt. In the process, we're seeing what's sort of a familiar scenario, which is that things go stepwise. It didn't actually start with the horseshoe crabs. It really started with rabbits, where years ago, researchers discovered that there could be a contamination in a vaccine or in some other injectable, and they would use rabbits for pyrogenicity testing to see if the rabbits would get a fever. It's obviously grotesquely cruel, expensive, slow, unreliable, and of all of these, the cruelty is the one that really stands out. So people developed the horseshoe crab test thinking, well, who's going to care about a horseshoe crab? You might care about the rabbit, but you're not going to care about animals that are under the sea. And so if that was the preferred method, then it ended up being not just hundreds and not just thousands, but far more animals than that being dragged out of the sea, and a lot of them don't make it back. The point being that these things move stepwise. When we were attacking the use of animals in medical education, it started out as dogs. And a lot of people thought it was a terrible idea to be killing a dog to try to educate a medical student, and obviously it was. So some of the medical schools said, don't worry, we're going to get rid of the dog labs. We'll replace them with pigs or goats or some other animal. And we had to say, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Let's get the animals out. And in the process, you not only make, whether it's testing or education, more ethical, but as Elizabeth said, it's better. It's scientifically better. And all of these things are important together. I want to share something else with you, though. And that's that there's something I like about advocating for animals who may not be so fuzzy and cute and warm. Because when you advocate for what sometimes is referred to as the least of these, the animals that maybe nobody has a heart for, and when you can get them out, you're really getting everybody out. So when we're thinking about rats and mice and horseshoe crabs, and we can realize that even they have a right to live life their way, everybody else benefits too. So thanks to all of you for helping us do this work. We're so grateful to you. There's lots more to be done. We're going to win it. We're going to win it together. So thank you so much. Back to you, Betsy.
Wonderful words, Dr. Barnard. One more mention of our match and gift campaign before we sign off. So you can have your donation doubled today. Today's the last day at pcrm.org/match. And this is the last day to support this campaign, and a wonderful opportunity to have your donation go twice as far to help PCRM's work. So thank you, thank you. Let me also mention that PCRM is hiring. So we are looking for people to join our staff at the Barnard Medical Center and also the Physicians Committee. And I have to say, when your job is your passion, you really cannot call it work. And we would love to bring on more people in these open positions that we need to find just the right person to join our team and help move this mission forward. You can find the open positions listed on the careers section of the PCRM website. We have nutrition director, medical practice manager, regulatory testing specialist, and more. They're all terrific opportunities to make your mark on this important work. Please check them out and send people our way. So that is it for today. I want to thank Dr. Barnard and Elizabeth and all of you for joining us here and sharing the news and caring so deeply about these issues. We will see you back here next week, next Friday, for an all new, brand new Mission Critical. Have a wonderful weekend.